I've been asked several times to show how I make a stock whip thong. Now I've already done a video on how I make up the handles for my stock whips. So I'm about to embark on a 4-foot stock whip for a customer. So I thought I might just make the video up now and be done with it. Now usually with 4-foot whips, because they're so short, I usually put a shot bag in them. You need that little bit of extra weight, otherwise they just float around. So the shot bag, I've got a template here for it. I make it out of kangaroo hide, and you can use just any scrap kangaroo hide that's lying around. The total length of this is 15 inches. It's 7/8 of an inch wide here at the widest part, and that's 4.5 inches down from there. So just make up a template and you've got it for good then. Now I'll just cut that out, and then I'm going to split it to as thin as I can get it, because you don't want it to be too thick, otherwise you'll end up with a very thick thong. I'll do that and come back to it. Right, now split that down to 0.8, not about 0.8 of a millimetre, which is good. And to make the shot bag, trusty old duct tape. Just roll out a piece like so. This is good stuff, you can't go past this duct tape. It's cheap, strong, you can make whips with it. Now don't put the whole shot bag in. There's about 2 inches here without any tape on it. And the reason for that is, if you close it right up, you can't get your shot in. Just fold it over, edge to edge, and stick it. Fold it over again, stick it again. Stick it on all the way around. Seems to be a bit of a controversy over these shot bags, what they should be made out of. I've tried sewing bags up and all sorts of things, sticking them together with glue. But I think you'll find this is the easiest and the quickest way, and it's strong. Now I've got a piece of fiberglass here that I've shaped to the size that I want, and I use this for all my shot bags. But you could get a piece of fishing rod, just poke that down there and open that up. Make sure it's nice and open. Now we're going to fill this with shot, with a number 12 shot. Now, just before I made up a shot bag, and I weighed the shot bag. The shot bag itself weighed about half an ounce. And then when I filled it with, oh look, I should really do this. I've got a piece of brazing rod. What you could use is a long knitting needle, long thin knitting needle, or go to your hardware store and or your local welding shop and go and get a piece of brazing rod. Put it in your bag and then just start to tamp it. Not too tight, just tight. Once that's in. Now, well, as I was saying, The shot bag alone weighed half an ounce, and by the time I put the shot in and the rest of the tape on, the whole thing only weighed about 1.8 ounces. So there's not a great deal of shot, but oh, geez, it makes a difference to the performance of the whip, and especially a short whip. Just keep filling it like that. Just get up to the top. Just tamp it in gently. So that's nearly there. This is number 12 shot, so it's fairly fine. It's what they use in 22 long rifle cartridges to shoot rats and birds with. I don't know if they still make them. And sometimes it can be quite difficult to get number 12 shot. Then just cut off a short piece of tape. And stick a bag to it. And just close it a bit. Fill it. Close it a bit more. That should just about do it anyway. Just roll that over there like that. And look, there's your shot bag. Okay. Now what I like to do is put a leather bolster over this, and that usually I make that usually make that thin as well. Just a little bit longer than the actual shot bag. This is an old piece of green kangaroo hide that I had kicking around. I've always got bits of hide kicking around somewhere. Give me a straight edge. Mark that off there like that so it fits around there. Yeah, that's a bit short actually. Now, bear with me. Make it a bit longer. Ooh. This is some chrome tan kangaroo hide that I have kicking around. And use it for things like this. It's nice and thin, supple. And it does the job. Leave a little bit hanging over the end there. Okay. We just cut that off to a thin taper there. The shot's not going to come flying out the end because that's just tape. Cut that out. Go down to nothing. Okay. Now, I'll tie that on with some thin cotton. When I tie it on, I'll make sure that the join, you can see the join there in that bag, put that join there and make sure the join in the leather is at the back. Your big head out of the way. Yeah, so it's at the back there, alright? And you leave about, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches on the end there. You can taper that out to virtually nothing. So I'll go and tie that on and I'll be back. Right, now that's done. There's the bag. I can't get any further out on this camera. I'm hanging the camera off the ceiling, so that's about it. So there's the bag. The bag at its widest part is about 10 mil, but that'll compress down a little bit more once we plait the belly over it. Now what I'm going to do is do a plated belly over this. The overlay is going to be 12 plat, so I think what I might do is do an 8 plat belly over this, the full length of the whip, and that will be cut to a yoke so that we'll have, we'll have something like this at the end with 4 strands hanging off here and 4 strands hanging off there. Okay, so if that's 10 mil there, 10 mil at 4.5, that's 45. If we divide that by 8, oh, what, 3 eighths are 24, 4 eighths are 36, so say about 4 or 5 mil. So our strand's going to have to be 5 mil wide, okay, at the widest part, and then they'll taper down over a 6 foot length, which is the length we'll need to go the whole length of the whip. For the belly. So I'll get some leather ready and I'll show you how I start this cut. Right, now before I lace out, I'll need to trim this hide. Just trim it so there's a nice smooth sort of flow here without too many sharp corners. Because this is the belly, no one's going to see it, so it doesn't really matter if there are a few scars in there. I'll just have a good pair of scissors. These are called Mundile. You can buy them on the internet. I don't think they're hellish expensive. They're dressmaker scissors. You get the ones with the serrated edge on here. There's a sharp edge here, serrated edge here. Take care of them, they'll last you a lifetime. Right, now that's cut out there. the yoke, which is like the middle part with the 4 strands hanging off either end. You want that to be about 3 inches. 1, 2, 3. This is the butt end of the kangaroo. His tail comes off there. So that's the strongest part of the hide. These bits here around the side, these are his back legs. This up here is his neck. They're a bit stretchy now, but once we start to get into the middle of the hide, it's a lot less stretchy. Now these strands have to be 5mm at the widest part. But what I like to do is cut them a little bit wider and then stretch them and then cut them back down to size. So if they've got to be 5, I dry stretch them for this little operation. I'll make them about 8.5. Right? So yes. Lunch ready? Okay. Alright, now to continue, we'll just mark this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. Now I've made them full width. We'll narrow these down later on. Now I measured this height around. I've got these 6-foot strands. So there's a 6-foot mark there. So I'm going to cut these strands out this way to the 6-foot mark, and then I'm going to cut them out back this way, back around to 6 foot, and do it that way. But normally, say with a 6-foot whip, you wouldn't be able to do that because you'd need 9 foot of strands. So what you would have to do is start off at the narrow end and work your way towards the middle, and then from the middle work your way back out towards the narrow end. But like I said, I'm going to cut these strands all the same width, stretch them, and then I'll cut them down to size. Just makes it a lot quicker, and you'll find you don't waste all that much leather either. I'll rip these out to 9 mil, and you'll notice I use millimetres as measurements when I'm cutting strands. The width, but when I'm measuring a strand for length, or a width for length, I use feet. The reason I use millimetres is because you're not mucking around with 64ths of an inch and 32nds of an inch and all that sort of stuff. Millimetres or half a millimetre, and very easy to divide. The adjustments on this tool here, for one turn like that, it's 1/2 millimetre. So, you know, when I'm cutting strands to taper, it makes it quite easy to do that. Alright, here's 6 foot. There we go. And once these are stretched out, they'll be longer than 6 feet. And again, we won't want the whole 8 strands at the end either. I'm only going to need 4 strands at the end. So there's a bit of waste there, but the bits and pieces that are left over, I'll put them aside. They'll eventually get used for something. I'll cut back the other way. Or mark out 6 feet. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. It's a good idea to use the to use the outside of these hides for bellies like this, because there's a lot of stretch in them. No, that's alright. Enjoy that on. As I say, because there's a lot of stretch in them, there are usually a few marks and bits and pieces on that you wouldn't let show on the outside of the wood. The overlay. These strands, after they're stretched, they'll need to be split down to a certain thickness too, because this is fairly thin there. Right, that's the belly cut. And now stretch the strands. When you're stretching the strands, I stretch my strands over a hook. Most of them I stretch dry now. You can see that I did there, I just got that wrapped around once around the hook. And there you go. Like I said, most of them I stretch dry. The only time I'll stretch the strands wet now is when I'm doing the finer plaits. Now when you wrap this around here, don't just pull directly on that because you'll tear that. So you want to give yourself a little bit here to pull on. Now you're okay. And now you see if that strand breaks, well, that's all well and good. You know you've got a weak strand. And you can join that up as you're plaiting anyway. Right, that's all that is. I'll just carry on and finish this and we'll get back to resize. Right, now we'll cut these down to 5mm and I'll taper them all the way down, but I'll just do the whole lot of the strands in 5mm first. See how that is. In the process of stretching the strands, I break another two. So, but that's not a big problem. No. See, that's 6.73. So we go back another mil. Still a bit much, hang on. 5.9. If you're using a tool like this, always make sure your razor blades are sharp. Don't be stingy with them. I think they work out to about 10 cents a piece, and you can get quite a few cuts out of them as you drop them down into your tool. And this is definitely the way to go because it saves you a lot of time about trying to sharpen knives. Pop in a new blade or just move that down and you've got a new cutting edge. Alright, that's about it, I think. Smidgen over 5mm, that's fine. Now what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and do a lot of these. Cut them down to size. When I've done that, we'll start to taper them down. Now I'm just starting to do the main body of the thongs. I'll start from this end. All the way through. And you'll see some of these bits that I'm cutting off here are pretty wide. Now what I do is I put those aside, and some of those I'll most probably get a 2mm strand all the way down out of that, and I can use that for either some fine plating or the first belly on a bullwhip. So I'll just go ahead and do this and I'll spin it around and do the other end in a minute. I'm doing the other side now, so I'll start from the end and work up to the yoke. I think I'm doing the other side. Perhaps I'm not. No, I'm not. God. Getting old and stupid, I think. There we go. A bit long one. I'll just cut this through up to the yoke. And you can see this piece of strand here. There's a fairly wide piece of strand, and like I say, I'll put that aside. I can most probably get some good 2mm strands out of that and use that for first belly and a ball whip. I'll tidy that up later on by hand. Right, I'll just do the rest of these. Now, when strands break, like these did, it's not a big problem to join them together. I use a glue called, where are we? Selleys woodworking glue. It's a water-based non-toxic glue for exterior work, and it doesn't take long to set. And what you do is skive your strands down on one side. One side you do the underneath. Take your time with this, don't get frustrated. And the other side, you do the top side. It would help if the knife was a bit sharper, but alright, then just bugger. Just put a little smear on here. And stick it together. If you leave that set for 4 or 5 minutes, that will stick together nicely. Just be a bit careful when you come to the joint when you're pulling up your strand. But once that sets properly, you can't pull it apart. It just melts it all, sort of melts it all together. So I'll go ahead and I'll do the rest of them. Right, now we'll start tapering the strands down. Now, this bit here, I'll just move this out of the way so I don't slice a finger. We want this part of it, from the yoke down here, to be a bit thinner, because this is I'm going to put this in straight away as I start plaiting, so that the thickest part of the thong will be there, which is about, I'd like it to be 9 inches. That seems to be the accepted thing, and then taper down from there. Now, to taper these strands here, like this, I'll do it by hand with a pair of scissors. You see that? Yep. You don't need much of a taper. Just a little bit at the beginning, because you come up pretty quick here, so you don't want to taper these too much, otherwise you'll end up with gaps in the plaiting of your belly, which is not going to be a big deal, because later on, when we put the overlay on, there'll be a sort of a bolster attached to one set of the thongs, and this whip is going to be two-tone. I've got these little scissors here. They're from Clean Tools. They're electrician's scissors. Customer sent these to me, and look, they are brilliant for little jobs like this. We want to get into tight spaces, and they will cut your fingers off if you're not careful. They're made to cut wire, so be bloody careful. Don't want people writing back to me saying, oh shit, I cut my fingers off. Right, oh, bit of bad language there, sorry about that. Right, that's that done. Now, start off with a nice shiny new piece of blade, and we'll cut these down in increments of 1/2 millimetre. Now we start off at 5, I want to end at about 3. And we only want 4 strands. So here we've got that out there, and we've got that sort of double that, and then from there to there and we'll about halve that again. Yep, that's about right. And this is where I'll tie a knot in this now. This is where we'll start to taper from. Right. Well, that might be a bit much. This is the first taper. We should have, at the moment, we'll just see, we've got 2, 4 and a bit feet. So if I taper every foot, we'll get down to 3 mil by the end, I should imagine. I'll do the rest of these strands. Alright, now we're just, that's that done at 4.5 mil. We'll take another foot measurement. Just tie that off. Oh, you can tie it off with a knot anyway, it doesn't really matter. And we'll take that back down another 1/2 millimetre. It's the beauty of these tools. Back in the old days, the old fellas would do this by hand with a very sharp knife, and that's all very well. But if I was still doing that, I wouldn't be making this video and putting it on Google or on YouTube. Right, I'll carry on and do that. Right, I've just poked that blade down a little bit to give me a bit of new blade. And of course eventually they'll poke out the bottom. That one hasn't yet. But when it does, all you've got to do is just snap it off with a hammer and you're in business again. Take that in another 1/2 mil. These tools you can purchase from a couple of different people. Their email addresses are on my website under tools. Fire off an email to them. Have to answer the phone. From them you can purchase this, and you can also purchase the strander, but they're two different people. If you think you can build them yourself, fire off an email to me and I'll send you the detailed plans and photos of the tools as well. But be aware they're not all that easy to make. Right, another 1/2 mil. There's can see how fine you can adjust these tools. I'll do this and get back just a bit more on these tools. As I said, I've got the plans for them, and I've got photos of them and the measurements. But the plans are very detailed, and they were sent to me by an ex-customer who I sent some photos to of the tools, and he very kindly made up some very detailed drawings, schematics, and sent them back to me with the proviso that I shared them around. So, you know, I'm not trying to do anyone out of business, but I also think that like these videos, these sort of things should be shared around. So, as I said, if you want the plans of the photos, just fire off an email and I'll send them to you. Right, the last tape is done, and they've come down to 3.05mm, so that's not too bad. There'll only be 4 of those plaited in the end, so that'll give you a nice thin plaited strand at the end of the belly of the whip. And I like to carry the belly through, the last belly, whenever I plaited bellies for whips, and I do that for all my bull whips. Hopefully soon I'll make a video on how to make a bull whip using all 4 plaited bellies, and you can see how that's done. What I'll do now is put these through the splitter, just so that they're a nice even thickness. The belly of any whips that you make are very important, because that's what's going to form the main part of your whip. And if your belly's crap, your whip's going to be crap. So take a bit of care with that. I'll just split these now, and we'll come back and we'll plait the belly. Alright, now we're ready to plait the belly. Grease your strands. I use a leather dressing called JL. I think I've mentioned this before. You can get it in the States, just I'll give you an address and where you can get it. And it's an Australian product. Very good. I've used it for, oh geez, about 35 years now. With this little tail, just cut it in little strips. Cut about 2, I reckon, to do the trick. And sit them inside your tail, and just tie them off with a bit of cotton. That way it all stays together for you. When you start off. Okay. Now, brush your 2 middle strands over, or your 4 middle strands really. Under one, over one pattern. Pop your belly in, just there, and start the plait. You can start straight into a under 2, over 2 if you want to. Doesn't matter, we aren't talking about the belly here. You'll see that's a fairly tight join there. And really that's what you want in a stock whip. You want both those joints to be fairly tight as you can possibly get them, and still put your whip through. The tighter the better. Okay, now I'll just go ahead and finish plaiting these. I'll finish plaiting the whole belly. There's no need for you to see how I drop strands. You can do that with other videos that I've got on YouTube. There are numerous programs on the internet that will let you download these videos, and you can whack them on a DVD. Go to your workshop, or your man cave, or your shed, and you can just sit and watch them, and while you're plaiting, or stop and pause them, and do all sorts of things. If an old fart like me can do it, I'm pretty sure you can do it. I use a browser called Firefox instead of Internet Explorer, and they've got quite a few add-ons that are free. And one of them is a downloader that lets you download videos from YouTube or from any other site for that matter. Alright, I'll stop nattering. Whatever I'm going to do here you can find on other videos that I've got on YouTube. I'll stop nattering and finish plaiting. Right, now I've finished plaiting the belly. I'm about to roll it. Now the way I roll mine is I put one end, I have them attached to a piece of string with a swivel on the end, and that way I can adjust for the length. And one end in the vise, and the other end on a hook with a swivel on it again. It gives me the ability to roll it around nice and freely. And to roll it, I use a piece of car spring, just an old car spring, polish off the edge, don't do a rusty old piece of car spring. That gives you a nice little bend, keeps your fingers out of the way. And roll it. You see, with it being suspended in the air like that, it rolls nice and easy. See? Just need a bit of a tap here. That's it, just roll it, and roll it well. Do a good job of it. Now that's been rolled, and when you plait these bellies, and when you plait anything, plait tight, you can see, look, that that's, that's fairly stiff. There's no support in that. Doing these bellies this way in this shape, I don't think makes any difference to the performance of the whip. I've done them in both ways. I've done them so that you come straight out of off the keeper in one straight line, and it hasn't affected the performance of the whip at all, I don't think. Just that I like this one. This is very traditional, and I like the way it looks. So now we have to set up to cut the overlay. Right, now the overlay, said it's going to be two-toned, or I think I said, two-tone black and blue. 12th plait. Strands is the thickest part, the belly, the thickest part is 12.23. So that means 12.23 divided by 4.5 equals 55, and you divide that by 12. This strands need to be 4.58 millimetres wide. So we'll cut the strands at 9mm, and this time I'll wet stretch them. And that's why I'm cutting it at 9mm, because by wet stretching them, it will really stretch. And while stretching them, as well as really stretching them, it will eventuate in a very dense thong. Now what I'll do now with a two-tone, because it's two-tone, the black strands, which are going to be the main colour in any pattern work I do, at the front of the whip, just about, I'll do some pattern work from here to here, maybe a bit further down. See how I feel. Because I'm going to do that, the blue to be the pattern black to be the base colour. So I cut the black out in one long single strand and then cut it into the lengths that I need. And then the blue I will cut with a yoke on it. And I'll show you that later on. And I'll show you how it all goes. It'll all fit together nicely. I'll cut these strands down here. Right, bucket of cold water. These are the strands for the black part of the whip. And all you do is cold water. And because these strands are not drum stuffed, they're dry. Just dip them in, take them out, and they're wet now all the way through. They soak this water up like anything. And now I'll just stretch them. Right, now just stretching the strands normal way around the hook. You can see that water coming out of them. And this really does make your strands dense. You can cut these down to 1.5 to 2 mil, and look, you'd be flat out breaking them. And there's a break, and that's really, what you want. If there's a weak part in your hide, you want to find it now. Not when you're plaiting your whip. Not that that does make a great deal of difference, because it's not hard to put it back in or join it up as I showed you before with the wood glue. That's enough of that. Now on reflection, I've decided to go about this a different way. And what I'll do is cut these blue strands out the same way as I did the black ones. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do then. And the reason I'm doing that is because this belly here turned out just a little bit thicker than I wanted. That's 12. By the time, if I cut the strands to a yoke, I'm going to have to wrap that yoke around this, put that back into the belly. That'll add another 2 mil onto there, that'll make that 14, and then another 3mm with the plaiting, give me 17, and that's just going to be just a little bit too thick. So I'll cut these strands out now, stretch them, then we'll get to resizing them, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with the actual plaiting on the whip. Right, we're up to about 55 minutes on this tape, so we're going to run out of tape. What I'll do, I've cut out the blue strands and stretched them. What I'll do is, it's 10 to 10 here now, PM. I'll go down to the house now, put this video on computer, and upload it tonight. So this will be DVD 1 on how to make a stock whip. Come back tomorrow morning and start on preparing the strands, getting them ready to plait, and preparing the belly as well. And there's a bloody big mosquito. Now I think I let out an expletive earlier in the piece. All the kids that watch this, sorry about that. I'm a bad boy. I put money in the swear box. So until the next time, I'll see you later.